Welcome to the annual BEA Competitive STEM Conference. I'm Marcia Jews, your host of BEA TV, sponsored by Raytheon Technologies. Join us each morning as we kick off each day with insights into the community of science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're here today now to have our conversation with the Stars and Stripes talking about mentoring. So make sure you get comfortable because this is going to be very educational. Please welcome Vice Admiral Davis. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Well, thank you, Marcia, for having this session on mentoring. Uh, Most youth will end up discussing mentoring sometime during their life, but most of us were mentored before we even knew that we were being mentored. And we won't talk today. We'll be talking a little bit about Stars and Stripes and its effort in mentoring, and how this began. And it was really about taking advantage of an opportunity. And when we look back on this, was a number of us that were coming from the military, coming to the BEA event, and that's because we had been approached by Tyrone Taborn, and he had convinced us all that if you could showcase engineers, that youth would want to be an engineer. And we saw the value of that, and so we started coming. And as we said, well, is there anything we can do together that might make a difference? Well, one of the things that we had noticed, our speakers and people given the awards were often the chiefs of service. And when the chief of service is coming, the people that work for him that come in, other flag officers were coming to the event. We noticed that they always came early because they would not want to be here after their leader, after their boss. So we said, well, why don't we take advantage of that? And why don't we ask them to come a little bit earlier than that? And by the way, if you've ever met a flag officer, they're probably the one thing they have in common is they hate doing nothing. They hate twiddling their thumbs. So we said, why don't we put them to work and use that time that they're here to mentor? So we brought in kids and we brought in the flag officers, and they were willing to come early. 25 came early the first year, and Craig will tell you a little bit later how many we have this year coming to mentor. So that's how our Stars and Stripes mentoring came into being. But in general, all youth, everyone at some time gets mentored. Sometimes you'll have more than one mentor. Sometimes as I said before, you'll be getting mentored when you really don't even know it. So that's what we're taking advantage of. You'll study this the youth will study this during their education. That's when they'll first learn about what is the power of mentoring? What is mentoring? What does that really mean? And then they'll reflect that, hey, I was exposed to someone recently, and I was talking with him, and then having my discussion with him, I found that was very valuable to me. I took lessons away from that. And then quite often, in taking those lessons later on, I had more questions, and I would wish, when he was here before, I should have wished I'd asked him that question, a particular question I have now. So when you have a mentoring program, it's to kind of set those conditions so that kind of mentoring happens. So Marcia, you may have a couple of questions about that, or what would you say now in terms of our efforts to mentor?
Yes, thank you, sir. I was there when you all started that mentoring program or starting Stars and Stripes. And I think that what was so powerful, sir, was to be able to take all of that intelligence sitting in that room. And that room was packed at that hotel when it first started. But the power in all of these gentlemen who were there, who have stayed the course in the military and climbed to the highest levels of military, to be able to take that experience and to give it to our young people is powerful. And I don't know how many years later, 20 something years later, we're still here doing the same thing. And this is something that is could be a college course for real. And because there's so much information, the intelligence just that's being passed through, the experience from all of you, where else in the world, and I mean this with all of my heart, and I've said it over and over to people, where else can you see all of these flag officers talking to young people, that experience, tried experience, successful experience, and you're speaking it to these young people, giving them the opportunity to dream and to see themselves there. That's the key right there,
I
to be
think,
able to see them. Go ahead.
and your perspective, it's always great to get your perspective. And I can remember even back when we first started this, you took the opportunity then to say, "Oh, I'm going to interview some of these folks that are here, that come into our event," and you would have them out in the passageway. You'd grab us and you'd go in and have a conversation with us. And I can't remember how many times I would look back on that conversation that you were having with sometimes a 3 or 4 star, and saying, "Boy, what a great lesson." In a sense, I was being mentored then. Since if I was a youth, I was being mentored then, because I'm taking something away from that conversation. It's answering some questions that I had about life and how I would succeed in life. So your perspective has always been very important in this, and you know how to capture it.
Oh, Admiral, that means a lot to me for you to say that. And I think it's for me, I'm so proud of all that you all have done and the sacrifices that you all have made for this nation. And we, as citizens of this country, we appreciate you and your service. And we appreciate you for giving back to our community. Our young people need this experience. Our young people need to be able to see people who look like them, who are doing incredible things, who are the epitome of leadership. And it's very, very powerful. And I'm just so grateful to have been involved and to be involved with you all for so long. It has made me a better woman and a better mother and grandmother. So I want to
Thank you.
say that to you all.
And this
And you
one,
all,
we get to take advantage of having 3 people who are actively involved, okay, in organized mentoring. And Craig Crenshaw, who runs our pre-dinner mentoring program, is taking over from Andy Wynn's doing that, getting off to a great start. I think he's going to exceed the record of mentors this year with his start. And then Jesse McCurdy, who runs our sustained mentoring program, is going to come after this, and he's going to talk about how he takes retired flag and general officers and uses them in the schools as mentors. So that's kind of what you have to look forward to this morning. Milton will also bring his perspective into this, and I'm looking forward to hearing their advice and perspectives.
thank you, sir. Well, since you said that, why don't we start out with Mr. Crenshaw, Secretary Craig Crenshaw, if you'd like to take the floor and talk
Yes,
about mentoring and why it's important.
thanks, Marcia. So far this has been a very rich conversation. Just hearing Admiral Davis talk about the beginning, and then your relationship and how all this started. A number of years ago, I'm a retired Major General from the United States Marine Corps, and had the opportunity to participate as a mentor to our students. And the reward that you get just being able to see the faces, to see the excitement that they have, and recognizing that they do have a future, and they really believe and understand that. And when you have those conversations with the students, they have deliberate plans. They know what they want to be, where they want to go, And then the mentoring just kind of allows that conversation to just evolve. Uh, and so when I had the opportunity to be a mentor when I was active duty, it was very rewarding. And then now in a position to give back in another way in terms of coordinating the pre-dinner mentoring program. Uh, this is a staple program within BAEA Stars and Stripes. As Admiral Davis mentioned, a number of years ago, when this first got started, there was a number of admirals and generals and SCSs got together and want to use that time to mentor students. Since then, we're at the number of 140 mentors today, maybe even over that, who will come and spend time with our students. The student number continue to increase. Right now we're about 600 students, and if you can imagine that you have 600 high school students, to include cadets, where they have the opportunity to talk to general admirals and SCSs about career, about success, and really see what success looks like. And that will be defined when they have the kneecap to kneecap conversation. That's how I like to describe it, because you do see the eyes of our students, and when they see and hear from these admirals and generals and flag officer, it's just a glow that just sometimes is unimaginable. But I think the beauty of this is that I was always told and heard that you can't be what you can't see or what you don't see. And so what we offer to our students is someone who are successful, someone who had different path to get to success, and ability and sharing with them that they could do that as well. Now, the path that they would take would be much different than any of the mentors. But the idea is to show that there is a path and that there is a way forward, and that the world will become and is their oyster in terms of what they can do and what they can ultimately be in life. We do recognize STEM, the importance of STEM, and how we want to have the right representation in the STEM community. And again, it's sometimes refreshing as you have these conversations with our students. They see it already. They see a future. And you wondered to yourself, well, when I was that age, did I have that same appreciation of where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go? But when you have that real detailed conversation, and sometimes you create these relationships with these students, that it moves you as a mentor. And there is opportunity to create continued relationships and continued mentoring, because we do know the value of it. The value of mentoring sometimes is measured in terms of relationship. It's measured in terms of shared experience. It's measured in trust. So all those aspects of mentoring becomes very important. And I think we're able to connect with the students to provide a visual of what success is, to provide an opportunity to talk to senior service chiefs or service members, generals and admirals, and as well as some cases, the service chief. So I just think this is an exciting time for us. This is an experience that they will always remember, and it's one that the mentor gets as much satisfaction as having a conversation with our students, because we know we're looking at our future. We know what our future will be.
I mentioned to everyone these generals and SCSs and generals and the flag officers all come in their uniforms. And you might tell them about what the age group is that they're mentoring. And one of the things I've always been amazed by, you come to these mentoring sessions, and sometimes we'll have by the way, you have about four stars, I think, coming this year. And they've really been mentored the day that the Vice Chief of Naval Operations is coming to mentor. And sometimes for the youth, it's several years later when they really understand the impact of who they were talking with. and the wisdom they got from that person. And that's when they really realized, wow, that's who I was talking with. And they've had the experience, they know what's going on. And that's when it really impresses you that I can use that information that they gave me really well, that kind of thing.
Right.
Mhm.
And when they come in their uniform and their service dress uniform, and the students see that, I mean, that's just exciting to see, every service wearing their service uniform. And when I was there, I wore my Marine Corps dress blues. And I'll stop at that.
Whoa.
We had all these great uniforms, all the services. And to some extent, that almost was a way of capturing them. And they would come and have these discussions. The ages from 14 to, sometimes we have middle school there, but primarily high school. So you have a breadth of students, and the level of discussion is just unbelievable.
Mhm. And
Absolutely.
and if I can just add something, and just looking at the crowd, right? And seeing, first of all, looking at all these young people looking on that stage, and they see all this when they see them coming in, and you can see a couple of them had a little mouth falling open. They don't know what to do with it. It's such a presentation, right? There's
Absolutely.
nobody's ever seen anything like that in many of our communities, and so they're sitting there in awe, right? They're
Exactly.
hearing, but they can't even believe that they're sitting there and
Mhm.
having this experience. I call them MIPs, memories in progress, because they will remember this for the rest of their lives. We are sitting and setting a tone for what they should be looking for and who they should become as leaders in this nation. And I just applaud you all and love what you're doing.
Okay. Well, thanks, Marcia. And as I mentioned, we have an opportunity to continue this relationship with our students in terms of providing mentorship program to them. And Mr. McCurdy, he leads that effort for us. And so I'll certainly look forward to hearing Mr. McCurdy's effort and what they're doing, and to continue to sustain our mentoring program.
So, Mr. McCurdy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Jesse McCurdy. I'm the civilian representative of the team here. And I am a retired senior executive, retired from the Department of the Navy Naval Air Systems Command. As a senior engineer, I represented, in fact, I led the engineering and research development program there at NAVAIR. Grew up as an engineer. I became involved, excuse me, with Bayer many years ago. This was before the pre-dinner mentoring. And the way I became involved was Bayer put out a call for people who should be recognized in the work that they do. And I would put a few of my star employees up for these awards. We would help them write their biography and put in the necessary information that would catch people's eyes so far as their work. And of course, most of their work being in the engineering group, their work was in engineering. So that's how I got started. And as the years evolved, I became more and more involved in when the Stars and Stripes program began. I started to get involved in that program just from being in the Friday program and the Friday lineup, and would invite some of my engineers to participate in that lineup, and also invite some of my, and when I say engineers, I'm talking about engineers who are in uniform and engineers who are civilian dressed like me, to be mentors in that program. And as that program went forward, the pre-dinner mentoring program, I think we all saw a need. Admiral Davis was there at the time. and he was leading the whole effort. But we all saw a need to reach out into the schools to talk more on a personal basis to the students. And that was the beginning of the Sustained Mentoring Program. And I participated in the Sustained Mentoring Program for several years. And eventually it became my time to lead the program. So I've been leading the program now for, I guess, 6 years, 7 years or so. And basically what we do is go out into schools, high schools, and we talk to students. And it's not just, we can't just drop into these high schools. We have to set up the program, introduce the program to the principal and the various assistant principals and teachers there, to let them know that we really have a purpose in coming into their schools, because they are very particular about who talks to their students. So we tell the leadership in the schools that we are there to give advice to students, to give advice on college careers, primarily in STEM. And that was, we were focused completely in STEM in the beginning. But in some of the schools, the students need advice, period. They may not be directly involved, interested in STEM. So we don't turn them away, because we want them to understand the value of going to college and what that is going to mean for them and their lives as they go through and their work life. And it becomes apparent to the young people after 1 or 2 sessions with them as to what our purpose is. And our purpose is primarily to make them aware of opportunities that are out there if they go to school, if they go to college. We also make them aware of in order to go to college, the academic preparation and achievements that they accomplish in high school is directly related to them going to college and being accepted in college. And then we try to have them identify with STEM careers. As I said before, there are some that really just not interested, but in STEM careers, but they're interested in life and what life offers them. These are kids who are 16, 17, and 18 years old. So their minds are still there to be developed. So one of the first things we do, and then one of the first sessions at each school each year, is to ask topics of interest that they would like for us to discuss. And then this is just to get a playing field of what's on the students' minds. And I'm just going to read to you some of the topics to show you how these kids think. Topics of interest at one school was astrophysics, aerospace engineering, medicine, biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering, architecture, ocean engineering, computer science, electrical engineering and math, psychology, health services, robotic engineering, physics, forensics. These kids they aren't sitting around twiddling their thumbs. They have things and they see people who are exceeding in these types of fields, but they have no idea, no clue as to how to get in that field. So that's where we mentor them on the necessary parameters that they have to take in consideration when they are thinking about being some of these entering into some of these fields. And one of the things, lastly, I just want to say, one of the things, ways that we catch their eye is what we do is we talk about people who have not finished high school, not anybody in particular, people who have finished high school, people who have gone to 2-year college, people who have gone to 4 years of college, and so forth. And we compare, money talks, as the old saying goes. We compare salaries in these various categories to show them what it means just from a monetary point of view. If you go to college, then we take those salaries and we compare them just a regular, say, liberal arts degree with an engineering degree, and we show the difference in salaries. Really catches their eye. And once we do all of that introduction, then we start to bring in people to talk in specific areas about specific fields. And it's just a rewarding situation to see the young people and see their eyes light up. And one DC school just here recently thought enough of us to ask us to participate in their senior project evaluation. So Captain Retired Cynthia Miller and I were at Phelps High School and participated in evaluating projects. They were STEM projects that the students had done research on and put together. So that's how this whole STEM sustained mentoring program tends to infiltrate high schools. And once high schools get the understanding of what we do, they really, really invite us to come back year after year.
Mm-hmm. And, this is really powerful for me listening to you. And thank you so much, Mr. McCurdy, because the reality is that these kids don't know what they don't know until somebody shows them, right?
That's
and
correct.
And that's what the responsibility of this is. And you know what, Admiral, I was thinking, we might need to do some chapters across the country. You got folks all over everywhere. You might as well start setting up chapters now, because and the reality is that you're making progress, that the kids can even start to see what is available to them, because people don't know what they don't know. And until you bring it to them, now it's like, oh, I have an aha moment, right? I can really change the trajectory of my life. That's what's so powerful. You have the ability to become the next Secretary of Defense, right?
That's true.
Well, Marsha, we haven't started chapters yet, but we do. What we did start was something we call Career Day. So once a month now we have a Career Day, and we have someone who comes from a profession and sits and talks with the kids about what they really do, understanding what they do when they go to work, what really makes them excited about what they're doing when they go to work. And that program has really taken off. We had from Disney, one of the head engineers at Disney has more patents at Disney than anyone else, that came in and told us about the Imagineers and how they, what the kinds of things they do at Disney. That had us all, the kids and us, all amazed, thinking about what an exciting profession to be able to go and design those Disney rides and organizations.
I love it. And it's so powerful. So I think we have someone else that we need to have in front of us so that we can hear from. And so, Mr. Milton, we would like to have you come in. We're so excited to have you, Mr. Commander Sergeant Major Milton Grant. Thank you so much for joining us. And please share with us.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone, again. Let me say this. This is what's inspiring about being a mentor. And I've been a professional mentor now for over 20 years on the civilian side. In the military side, as this esteemed panel already knows, that's pretty much your whole career before anything you do as a civilian, because Admiral said it best that, you mentor when people don't even know it. And what I tell people about just mentoring and growing is pay attention. Those are the two words I impart on everyone. Pay attention. because as Admiral said, you're being mentored when you don't even know you're being mentored. So if you pay attention, you'll learn so much more. What I really, and I'm going to be a little different here and say what I like today about mentoring. Mr. Crenshaw said something that was, Secretary Crenshaw said something that was so apropos. And he talked about impressing, the impression. Unfortunately, we live in a very cosmetic world today. So as you all know from teaching, you have less than 1 minute to capture your audience. The easiest way to do that is through non-verbs. They have to like what they see. And if you can impress upon them that, before you get to, I want to be like that, you need to impress upon them, I want to look like that. I want to act like that. I want to talk like that. I want to walk like that. And so that impression is paramount. And walking in dress uniforms. And it's funny that you said that, Secretary, because I used to take soldiers out to airports, and this was our professional development training. And I would have them put on whatever they thought were their nicest civilian clothes. Could be a suit. I didn't care what it was. And we would walk through the airport, standing tall, walking professional, dressed to impress with their suit and ties, or whatever they chose to wear, as long as it was professional. And they would say, what are we doing? What are we doing? Well, right now we're just walking. I'll explain to you what we're doing when we come back. So we would go back, we would do that. And then we would come back the very next day, all in dress greens, and couldn't make it through the airport without being stopped from one terminal to another 20 times. That's the impression. When you look like something that's important, when you talk like something that's important, when everything that you're saying also makes sense, that's what's important. And to transition from that to what Mr. Crenshaw was talking about, he said something that was so profound, that I live by. The mentor-mentee relationship begins with people that have nothing to do with the conversation. And that's the people responsible for the mentee. And if you go into an organization of youth and you don't talk to the leadership first, you're swimming upstream. Bad day. And so I think that including people that aren't necessarily going to take part in the active conversation, but the passive conversation is where they're going to get their reinforcement from. So you have to grab that leadership so that they can be that reinforcement piece, not involved in the active conversation, but they're the foundation layer supporting the passive conversation. And so that's what's important. Mentoring people, I will tell you that it is one of the biggest satisfactions you can ever get. And here's why. At the end of the day, when you take on someone who you know that everything that you're talking to them about is foreign to them, in other words, that they've never experienced what it is you're bringing to the table, what you really need to remember as a mentor is that when they walk away, everything they know about what you just taught them is only what you taught them. That's their foundation layer. That's their first building block. And success is about relationships. So if you don't establish solid relationships as you move forward, then that trajectory is going to be a little difficult. So just understand the understanding piece of mentoring for me is what's most satisfying. And the Bea platform, oh my God, I mean, how fortunate can you be? The world's best and brightest minds, some of the greatest leaders. Here's what I call the boomerang effect. When you throw that boomerang out, you get admirals and SESs, and this is everybody that's 4-stars. This is everybody that's coming into the room to be a mentor. But when that boomerang comes back, many, many, many years later, those mentees, they're now perhaps 1-stars and 2-stars and SESs. And this, I remember you did my first. That's the beauty of it. The circle of success is much like the circle of life. It will come back if you do it right. It will come back great if you do it right. And I think that's what Bayer represents. I know that that's what this panel represents. So I think the biggest thing that I would, my favorite 2 words that I would say for mentoring is pay attention. Because as the Admiral said, you're being mentored when you don't even know it. So, and that's kind of what I would say there, Marsha. Thank you so much.
Terrific.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I think what's really important here too is I just want to thank Mr. Grant here. He is with General Ballard's, retired Lieutenant General Joe Ballard's company, and apparently is handling all of the mentorships and programming that's going on. So this is perfect fit for what we're doing here and bringing it full circle for Stars and Stripes. So thank you all. So we still have a little more time. I'd like to have people just bring in some thoughts around how do we get parents involved so that they understand the mission, right? There's one thing to send your child somewhere, but okay, that'll be a nice experience. But what's that real takeaway that we want parents to be able to deal with? Admiral, you want to start it off?
I will start out with that one. And by the way, one of the things that happened to us really quite early on is that and when you think about this, you can imagine we had the youth showing up, and guess who else showed up? Their parents. Because they weren't letting their children go somewhere where they didn't know what was going on. So we would quite often have parents that would show up at our mentoring event. That is really powerful when they go home from that. And by the way, one of the things that we do is we had this perception of people that, you're going to do a mentoring session and you're going to have people there in uniform. They're just going to be recruiting kids. One of the things that we never talk about in our sessions is trying to convince someone to go into the military. It's not about that at all. So when the parents could come there and see that, and actually see the mentors and what they're doing, that has a really powerful impact. They want their kids now to be there. So we do try to get them engaged. Jesse McCurdy has a little different challenges in schools, but the same thing. When we have the opportunity to get to the parents, to two groups that are really important in the sustained mentoring program is the principal and the parents. And the parents are demanding it, and the principal sees how it fits in his already vision. It works.
Yeah, Marsha, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just to continue Admiral Davis's comments, this year we have a number of parents that will be attending the pre-dinner mentoring session. And what is interesting about the parent is that the parents can relate better to the mentors because sometimes there is the age relationship that's connected, and so there's a different conversation that you can have with the parent. Now, when they see, particularly generals and admirals and SESs in uniform, and they have that connection, start talking to them, and many of them have shared some experience as well in uniform, and so they have the opportunity to some extent to talk to senior leaders, and you have this group moving towards the same goal. You have their family, the mother and father who may have worn that uniform, and their kids now have a discussion with a successful leader within a particular service. And so it really just started to this kind of galvanize behind all that, because a lot of them know what the challenge they went through as adults, and now they see some successes in those same particular areas, and so they are just as excited. They want their kids, their daughters and sons to go up and talk to the mentors, and I've seen a number of occasions where the parent would bring the kid, bring their son and daughter, and they would kind of walk away, and they would come back looking for them. They'll find their son and daughter in the midst of generals and admirals by themselves talking on the side. I mean, they're just really, it's just what a unique experience seeing that. And when the families are engaged, I mean, that can propel almost anything. And that's what we see when we have those parents come to the session. So I'm looking forward to seeing them every time we have this. So it's vitally important.
Yes, and if anybody else would like to add on to this?
I would like to add on a little bit.
Yes.
It's really important to complete the circle, and Secretary Crenshaw's comments are so apropos to the success of being a good mentor, and that is addressing the head of the narrative, and the narrative is the mentee. So when you bring these young students in, you have to make sure that every resource that they have is duly informed, to a point to where that conversation can continue. One of the greatest speeches I've ever heard, Dr. King, and it was a speech that he gave to a Philadelphia junior high school. And the title of the speech is, "What is your life's blueprint?" That's just profound. And it's even more profound that Bea is carrying that baton further into the future by helping people create a blueprint, helping young students create a blueprint, while at the same time informing and educating their parents. You know, I often say when I give speeches or briefings or whatever, there is never a smartest person in the room. They're just smart people. And together they make the whole room smart. And so getting everyone to understand that there are levels to this, that there are stairs on this trajectory to success. Again, I go back to the first two words I said when I spoke the first time: pay attention. If you pay attention to everything that's happening, right, you can be mentored in a situation that you have nothing to do with, and or that has nothing to do with you. If you just pay attention, you will learn something. And so when you get a chance to have a direct line of mentoring, that's the icing on the cake. When you can get that one-on-one or that one to end where you're the one, and then the end is however many you're mentoring. That's a beautiful thing. And we need more of it. I applaud what Bea is doing. It needs to continue. I'll just shorten it by that before I vacillate too much. It needs to continue. It's one of the greatest things in the country, because it speaks to people who normally, in many cases, not in all, but in many cases, will never get the chance to hear from people like this. And I think that that's just amazing, and it needs to be broadened. So I look forward to it just being greater and greater every year.
Yes.
Maybe one last comment I'd like to make is an observation, and Secretary Crenshaw can attest to this. We have a dinner. In fact, the dinner is this evening, the pre-dinner, and where we have started to invite over the years a few students to the dinner, and it's basically an awards dinner. But we thought that students would gained from seeing senior people get awards, and meaning that they had accomplished something in their careers. But many times that when the students come to the dinner, they do bring their parents as chaperones. And I've seen parents be just astonished at what goes on. And I could tell it will leave a lasting impression on them so far as their mentoring at home, their kids and their students. So I think it's necessary to get the parents involved. A lot of times they're isolated, and not so much isolated, but they don't, really be in the school setting. And the only time they get involved in the school setting if something is not going quite right with their child. But to get them involved in the positive ideas that are going on with their child, which Bayer presents, I think is very important. And Admiral Davis mentioned the principals of the schools is to get them to understand what we're there to do, not only in the sustained mentoring program, but in the pre-dinner mentoring program. And the schools assign teachers as our points of contact, and they are more than point of contact. They are people who really want to understand that it's necessary to keep students' interest, and usually they are science teachers. So students have that opportunity to interface with teachers, sometimes principals, of course, the parents every day. If we can get the parents to understand just how important it is to for careers of their kids by bringing them to the dinner, that's a plus.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. I'm curious to know, how do we have a lot of young ladies participating in this program, and what's the percentage that we're seeing?
We certainly do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
those numbers?
there's a lot. I don't know the percentage, but I would tell you it was close to in some cases almost 50%. I mean, it really a lot of the girls participating in it, and so it's also unique to see when you have these discussions, particularly when we have the mentoring one-on-one and what their interests are, and as Ms. McCurdy mentioned, the type of subjects that was being asked to be discussed in the sustained mentoring program. You have the young girls who are right in line to asking those same questions, have the same level of interest. And so again, when you walk away from there as a mentor, you realize that again, that you're talking to the future leaders who just have exciting view on what they want to be and how they want to do it. Particularly when you have the discussion about things like the metaverse and all that physics and science, is that, hey, I see the future. I'm talking to the future right now. And again, it's just pretty rewarding. So there are a lot of girls there as part of this program.
By the way, Craig, you also might want to mention that when we started this 25 years ago, got the 25 to come. Every one of them was male.
Yeah.
We have seen the progress. So when we mentor today, we've got how many? I know at least have one 4-star they're coming.
Yes, sir. We have at least 2 4-stars and a large number of 3-stars and 2 and 1-stars. So we're
Who are female?
Oh, I'm sorry for the female. So we have a number of female flags coming. I don't have the right number right now, but I think it'd be well represented in terms of women in leadership roles within mentoring session.
I love it.
Yeah. We have in the sustained mentoring program, our mentors are about half and half women. So girls can see, they have a model to see, that women accomplish, the accomplishments of women is just the same as men. In fact, one of our mentors is one of the former assistant secretaries, Stephanie Easter, who I mentored back at Navarre.
I love it.
And we have other mentors who are women senior executives, and they have many stories to tell as they went through and were promoted up the chain.
That's powerful. And, I think that something years ago, and it's easy to see yourself there if you see somebody there, right? And you can, it's much easier to make that transition. But if your purview, you can't see anything but you reflecting, then that's what all you're going to get. And that's why this program is so powerful, because now you have young people who can come out of whatever that was to have these experiences that they will be able to walk with for the rest of their lives. And I know just for myself, as old as I am, it really, you see all this white hair, y'all saw it before, we didn't have all that, but anyway, but it's being able to see the amazing thing is coming to the Black Engineer of the Year Awards conference, and seeing all these Black people creating, developing, designing, bringing it. And then to see all the military personnel who are defending this nation at every single level. And you can't help but walk away with feeling pride in my own people. We always see all that negative stuff. But to be able to look at people who look like us, who are changing the world and changing us individually, is powerful. This program, it's 37 years for the Black Engineer of the Year Awards Conference. And it means everything to have you all here, to be able to bring these young people here, to hear you, to see you, and to look at your body of work. That's huge. And how can you see yourself if you don't even see anybody that looks like you within that 12-foot radius of your life? And I applaud you all, and I'm so grateful to see that we're still rolling with this. You guys are still rolling. If we could just give our audience 2 or 3 nuggets to take away on leadership or whatever it is that you'd like for them to think about, or action items that you'd like for them to do.
If I had one, I think it would be try it.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? An action item for our audience.
While we hesitate to do that, Marcia, I want to thank you for having this session with us today and talking with us, and also to thank Milton Grant for coming today, giving us a little different perspective. 20 years of experience doing this as a professional, and that we get something out of that also. So thanks a lot, Milton, for being here today with us.
Thank you.
And I was looking forward to not only the other interviews you've done this year, but what you're going to do for us next year in Baltimore.
Yay! I can't wait.
Marcia, if I could just add persistency, to be persistent in terms of continue to move the rock and just recognize that almost anything is possible because you have a network and an understanding of, if they have an understanding of what mentoring is all about, the value of mentoring, and when and how and where it occurs, they can accomplish almost anything. And so it really is to be persistent in your endeavor.
And one of my last comments, is to be engaging and inquisitive. For young people to, have a relationship with their mentor, and don't be afraid to talk and ask questions. They can learn a lot.
Yes.
I'd like to also mention, since we have Mr. Milton here, is that the Ravens Group is founded by General Ballard. So I don't know if I said it, but I just wanted to make certain that he wasn't able to attend. But we were able to, thankfully, have you here, Mr. Grant. So thank you very much. We appreciate your participation. And we appreciate all the participation from all of you. And I know that this is going to be a wonderful weekend. And Stars and Stripes, as usual, will have a great program. And I think that's tonight,
That's right.
the awards. And so
seeing
we wish you.
on the show floor tomorrow.
I'm sorry, what did you say, sir? I didn't hear you.
I said that, yes, our dinner is tonight, and we look forward to seeing you down on the show floor tomorrow.
Oh, they have me on lockdown. I'm virtual this year. So, but you will see me next year in Baltimore.
All right.
You'll see me next year, but they have me sitting in front of this camera interviewing people from dark 30 to 1200 p.m. I don't even know what time. They just make me sit, and for those of you, so Mr. Secretary, you and Milton, you don't really know me, but I'm always talking and running around. But we're not. They have me locked in this chair. They put a belt on and said, "Don't you move. Keep that microphone going."
Well,
great job.
I've enjoyed your interviews so far. You've done a terrific job. You're certainly energetic for being at home in a chair.
Yeah.
I know, and I am home in a chair. And that virtual business, Tyrone he said, okay, we're gonna do the cyber whatever, and we're gonna have the metaverse and all this. I was like, okay, just tell me where to sit. That's too much. I don't know what to do. That's too much for me.
That's
but
a nice
is really
background.
wonderful.
Yeah. Good.
Isn't it wonderful?
Right, we'll sign off, everyone, and thank you. Thank all of you for your participation today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you all very much.
Take care.
Enjoy your day.
You
Yeah,
too.
will do.
Bye now.
Okay.